Can you hear me okay? Good? Okay. Good morning. Thank you so much for showing up so early. We're the opening act. It's great to see so many familiar and new faces in the crowd. Just quickly, if you did not get a handout, we are making some more copies, so they'll be available to you as you're walking out. On that handout, you'll find some of the information we will be referring to throughout the presentation, so just hold tight if you have any questions on that. My name's Robin Roebuck. I'm the Associate Registrar. This is Rosa Camelli. She's one of our Assistant Directors as well. We're going to talk to you today a little bit about the undergraduate graduation application process and some things that are forthcoming for both undergraduate and graduate. Rose is going to start out with some of our current processes and some considerations for advisement for students in regards to our graduation application. And we'll answer any questions you may have along the way. But first, I'd like to just introduce a little bit of our staff who is here with us. As I mentioned, Rosa is here. And if you can just wave to us if you're in the crowd. I think I saw Blanca, Sierra. Where'd you go, guys? Where'd they go? Oh, come on. And Mari is here. There's Mari McDevitt. These are our graduation application evaluators. So what they do, once students submit applications, we go through one by one and individually refer to each student's academic profile and look at their record. Every single class that they've taken, we make sure that it meets the criteria for their degree requirements. And then we actually clear the student for graduation and confer their degrees. If there are any issues, we communicate that with the student. So this is a very time-consuming process, but we like to give each student a thorough review and the time that they need. So, like I said, I'm going to hand it over to Rosa and then speak to you later.
Thank you, Robin. Good morning, everyone. All right, I'm going to try not to speak too loudly into this thing. Okay, as Robin mentioned, I'm going to speak to you about our undergraduate graduation policies and procedures. So the first slide we're talking about today is graduation advisement considerations. When students apply for graduation, we are asking you to take into consideration when you're advising them for undergraduate graduation. It's not mentioned here on this slide, but I just want to mention on one of the handouts you have received or will receive, gives you the undergraduate graduation deadlines for 2019. These are very important for the students, for their benefit. In order to receive an early evaluation, we advise students always, and we're asking that you do so as well, encourage them to apply as soon as possible. This will allow for time for changes in their schedules, adjustments, or schedule change and plans change if necessary. The early submission deadlines, applications that are received by the early deadlines will be evaluated prior to the add drop period of their final semester. So it really gives us a chance to notify students, whether it's by email or phone call, to let them know, hey, you're missing such and such course or requirement, so they can finish in their final semester as they've projected. These early evaluations really provide an opportunity to clear problems before graduation and before their graduation date. So for January 2019, the deadline was actually in April 27th was the early evaluation deadline, and the late deadline will be October 5th. So keep that in mind for students whose final semesters are this upcoming fall and want to graduate in January. For May and August graduates, the early deadline is October 5th. So please encourage students and advise them to apply as soon as possible, again, so we can evaluate them and notify them of any issues prior to their final spring semester or summer semester if they are August graduates. And then the final deadline for them, the late, is February 1st. Okay, so we're going to talk about substitutions, waivers, exceptions, all different parts of our application process and things to consider when advising students. Okay, so right now we've been collecting we've been collecting curriculum guide sheets with the degree applications. Robin will touch on the new graduation application process that will be coming, that we're very excited about. We would like for students to only use the degree audit system for advisement. There are many benefits to using only degree audit for the students. Their catalog year always matches their correct year. when the students declare their major, their year is entered into the system, and that will be reflective on their current degree audit. And that's the year they should be following. That's the year, that's their contract year with the university. All their course numbers and names will be properly equated on their degree audit if they're under the right catalog year. On the degree audit, in comparison to the old curriculum guide sheets, you can account for all registration activities. It'll say they've pre-registered, they're in progress, or what they still need to complete. It also lists correctly all of their transfer credits that they've received. It's clear to see on their program evaluation, on their degree audit, the transfer credits they've received. It calculates their credits automatically, so it's not something the student needs to do or advisors need to do. This way, there's less chance of error, mathematical errors for calculating credits, how many they've completed, how many are in progress, and what they still need to complete. Excuse me. It gives them the options of if they take one course, another course they can take. It clearly defines their options of either or courses on the degree audit. It also marks requirements if they're in progress or complete. And it also notifies students if they have repeated courses and potential grade recalculations on this degree audit. Okay, so course substitutions. There are many times when students will request a course substitutions, depending on situation. They're used when a student takes a course at Kane or outside of their prescribed curriculum to replace another course degree requirement. We're going to have a new standardized form for course substitutions beginning fall 2018. We are now asking students, thank you, Blanca. We are now asking students and faculty advisors to submit these course substitution forms to have them filled out whenever advisement occurs. So when you meet with your student advisee, fill out the substitution form and submit it at that time to the Office of the Registrar. We're asking you no longer wait until when they apply for graduation. This will alleviate problems with missing courses or mismatches on their degree audit. We would like to have them submitted. You can scan them and email them to our new email address for course substitutions, coursesubs@kane.edu. This way, we will collect them and we will update their degree audit, so we'll clearly notify the students on their degree audit what the course substitution was and that it's been approved. They will be processed by our office as soon as they've been submitted in order to have it up to date, as is stated. They still have to be approved by their departmental designee, whether it's their faculty advisor or executive director, depending on who meets with the students. Also, please keep in mind to keep the Office of the Registrar updated on who your faculty advisors, executive director, or department chair that have the approval to grant course substitutions and waivers and sign off on applications for graduation. This is the new request for course substitution form. It's pretty simple. Basic gives us the information we need, the required course and what course you're substituting, has a student's name, which is of course important, ID number, and the departmental designee's information. Waivers are similar to course substitutions. Again, they're used when a specific course, a student is required to take a particular course and they've been granted permission to have it waived. For many reasons, students have courses waived depending on up to the discretion of the departmental advisement. These courses, of course, have to be made up somewhere else. It's something that seems to be unclear many times to our students. When their course is waived, if it's a 3-credit course or a 4-credit course, they still have to make up those 3 or 4 credits somewhere in their program curriculum in order to earn all the required minimum credits to graduate. So usually it'll fall under free electives. So they'll take the 3 or 4 credits, whatever it might be, under free electives. So please discuss this with your students when you've given the approval to waive a course. Advise them that they will have to make up those credits. Again, please submit these waiver forms as soon as the advisement occurs, so we can have them, if you can, please scan them and email them to us to coursesubs@kane.edu. This way we can update the student's degree audit so it can clearly be reflected on there for them. Again, it still has to be approved by the departmental designee. And that's the request for course waiver, similar to the substitution, and where we've added on the form so it can be discussed and advised course to be taken to account for the waived credits. Okay, so I briefly touched on the catalog year. The catalog year is important for the student's program, for their degree audit to be up to date and correct. We need to adhere to the correct catalog year for curriculum when you're advising your students. They should match their degree audit. If they are not matching, or if they are incorrect, or you would like to change them for a specific reason based on when the student started in your major, please indicate that on the change your major minor status form. This way, it will be correctly reflected in their degree audit. The university's catalog year policy is 10 years for undergraduate students to complete their program of study. Extensions may be granted and considered via their respective dean's offices. Beyond that, after 10 years, the new catalog year is to be followed, the year that they return. Prior coursework may or may not be considered toward obtainment of current degree. So keep that in mind when advising students if they've been gone, or if they've took a stop out from their program, or their program has been more than 10 years since when they were admitted and began. Major, minor change of status forms, these should be submitted prior to applying for graduation. They get submitted to the Office of the Registrar in their process in our office. They're used for change of majors, change of catalog year, declaration of majors and minors, and program additions, such as second majors. So please make sure to fill out this form with your advisees and have them submit them to the Office of the Registrar, so their degree audit correctly reflects their catalog year, their major, and so forth. And this is the form, the major, minor, status change form. And it requires a signature from the departmental chairperson or executive director. And they could also change their major from one major to another using this form. Okay, so residency requirements. This is a confusion for students. A lot of times students don't realize that they must complete a minimum of 32 institutional credits at Kane. So this is very important when advising your students. They have to have a minimum of 32 credits in order to earn a bachelor's degree at Kane, and a minimum of 50% of their major or minor courses must be completed at Kane University. Other credit considerations is that most programs require 50% of their free electives to be taken at the 3,000, 4,000 level, and 50% of their major electives usually require 3,000 to 4,000 level credits. Okay. Now, summary of honors requirements. This is an area that's very difficult for students. We have a lot of challenges with students with graduating with honors, undergraduate students. It's very confusing for them, so we wanted to just go through it a little bit just to clarify. The undergraduate catalog policy is on one of your handouts, just to be clear about graduation with honors. So students graduating with a cumulative grade point average of 3.5 or better, or have completed a minimum of 45 semester hours at Kane by the end of their first semester of their senior year. It's important to realize it excludes pass, fail, satisfactory, unsatisfactory. So it has to be all letter grades. 45 semester hours, all letter grades granted. In order to graduate with honors, they must fulfill all of these requirements. And any candidate that has an incomplete grade, a pending grade, cannot be considered eligible for honors until the grade has been changed. Students with incompletes will be considered for honors once their grade's in for their final semester for when they graduate and when their degree is conferred on their official transcript and on their diploma. But if they have not made the cutoff by the fall semester of their senior year, they will not be included for honors in the honors convocation ceremony or listed as honors in the commencement bulletin or be granted the gold tassel. All of this has to be in place. Yes? Yes, that's what I was just going to say. So what's important is for students that miss the opportunity to be invited to honors convocation or receive their gold tassel for commencement or have their name have the asterisk in the commencement bulletin, we always tell them obviously that's important to them. It's a special ceremony, both of them. But really, to graduate with honors, to have the honors designation is your final cumulative GPA and your final semester credits. So at the end of their term, their last term, when all their grades are submitted, all their coursework is completed, that's when we determine if they graduate with honors truly, when it'll be designated on their diploma and on their official transcript. The other part is really for participating in ceremonies and for being invited to honors convocation. So, and we also included on the sheet that you've received outside the honors designation. So 3.85 and above to 4.0 is summa cum laude, 3.65 to 3.84 is magna cum laude, and 3.45 to 3.64 is cum laude. So students enrolled in Kane Ocean programs, it's also reflected on that form that you receive, that do not offer the full 45 credits for them to possibly earn for courses with grades at the Ocean County College location, can be advised and approved by their college dean to earn substituted courses to determine eligibility. So that policy is separate for the Ocean County College students. Again, academic honors are awarded based upon completion after their final semester at Kane University. So in order to participate in the commencement ceremony with honors and be eligible to receive that gold tassel, all the above requirements that I mentioned must be best met at the end of their final semester, usually of their senior year, which is usually the fall term for students graduating in May. Or end of the winter term also it could be. Okay, so this is a new program that the board has approved. It's called the Graduation Incentive Program that we've been advertising to students and very excited about. The Graduation Incentive Program provides to students, eligible students, up to $1,000 bonus who complete their undergraduate degree within a 4-year period. So we're trying to incentivize and encourage students to complete their bachelor's degree within 4 years. The monies are awarded upon August degree conferral. So the students who are eligible for this graduation incentive program have to have been admitted as a freshman in a summer 2 admission date or a fall term admission date. Students must complete all of their coursework students may complete coursework at other institutions while enrolled at Kane, but they must complete their final last semester at Kane to be eligible. And it has to be during the summer semester. We're looking to grant this bonus up to $1,000 bonus to students that have August degree conferrals. So they have to take their last summer session here at Kane University. Students who take 6 to 14 credits, which lead to the completion of their degree in the summer of their 4th academic year, students with greater or less than these limits may be eligible for other awards for incentives. You can refer to the Foundation's website for more information. The Graduation Incentive Program overview is laid out for you on one of the handouts outside. It tells you more about the requirements, the college roles with scholarship services and the Office of the Registrar. And if you have any questions regarding the Graduation Incentive Program, you can contact Scholarship Services, and it's on the form. Okay, so graduation, grade recalculations, we have our current grade recalculation policy I'm going to go through. It's in the process of being changed. It was just approved, and Robin will touch on the new policy. Our current policy up to fall in 2019, so for the next academic year, we will still be following the current grade recalculation policy, where students must apply for grade recalculations. We have forms on the Office of the Registrar page and at the One Stop Service Center. Students currently are limited to 4 repeated courses or 4 grade recalculations or 12 credits, whichever is greater. Please be aware when advising students that they only can receive a grade recalculation once for the same course. So some students unfortunately have to repeat courses numerous times, such as Math 1000, 3, 4 times in order to pass, but they will only be able to recalculate one of their failing grades or lower grades. Also, the grade that they receive, the higher grade, must come after the lower grade. It can't be in reverse. So they receive an F, then they receive a B, they can recalculate that F. It can't be they received a C, and then they took it over and received an F, they can't recalculate that F. Okay? So those will both stand in their cumulative GPA. It's only eligible for traditional letter grades, not for pass, fail, or satisfactory, unsatisfactory. And we cannot process grade recalculations after their degrees have been posted, after conferral of degrees. So please advise students to submit their grade recalculations as soon as they've completed their retake and received a higher grade. At this point, I'd like to pass it off to Robin, and she will continue on what's coming up soon in our units. Thank you.
Hello again. So we do have some exciting things coming up, one of which is the new grade recalculation policy. Our online graduation application is something we are really looking forward to, as well as student planner. And I'll go through each of these things one by one. First is future grade recalculations. There's a lot of information on this slide, so I do apologize, but we wanted to just let you know. Once this does go into effect in the fall of 19, we will be sending an email out from our office with all of the details of this, just informing everyone that this is in effect as of that time. Basically, this will take effect, like I said, fall 19, and it will apply to courses taken prior to that term if the repeated instance comes after fall 19. So if I took a class, say, fall 18, but then I retake the class in fall 19, it will be applicable to this policy. However, if I take a class for the first time in fall 19 and then retake it that next semester, if I retake it the next semester, we'll be following that policy. But if I take both instances now, if I took one in 18 spring and then another one 18 fall, I cannot recalculate based on this new policy. Basically, it's a little bit more liberal than we have been in the past, so it's unlimited repeats. It's going to be an automatic process, so no more filling out the form, requesting that. It's going to be the best grade that counts, so it's not necessarily the last time the student took the course. We're giving them the benefit of whatever grade they got the best, they did the best in. It still cannot be processed after the degree is posted. This will not change. This is something that once we confer a degree, we may have issued a transcript to a student. So if that goes out, that's public information, we cannot change that. That is something that we're very strict about just across all realms. So if a student wants to grieve a grade, they have to do that prior to the degree being conferred. So same thing with grade recalculations. This is still only for undergraduate students. Graduate students are not eligible for grade recalculations at all. There's still no change in financial aid limitations, so we advise students to check with the financial aid office if they are receiving any kind of aid, just to see what those limitations are. So they may be, at risk for SAP or anything like that. They should definitely check on that. External agencies may not recognize grade recalculations. This is the same now. That again, moving forward, this may be the same. So if a student is applying to med school or law school, they might look at the first grade. They might look at the worst grade. So just keep that in mind when you're advising students that they should take all of these things into consideration. New graduation application process. We are eliminating paper degree applications. I'm sure everyone is probably just as excited as we are about this. This has a lot of really good benefits. Obviously, it cuts down on human error. It cuts down on time that we have to take to enter all of these applications one by one. And it just keeps students from having to come to campus. There's just so many benefits of this. We're hoping that we can fully release this process for January 19 applications. So basically, almost about now. We're pretty far along in this process. There's just a couple of little kinks we have to work out, but we're really hopeful we can get this together for our deadline coming up. So basically, this is going to be available through the student portal, which is currently CaneWise, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about what that's going to look like going forward. We're going to be changing over to something called Student Self-Serve and Student Planner. So basically right now, students hand in a packet when they go to graduate. They hand in a degree application, they hand in course substitutions, they're handing in a litany of paperwork, and we're sorting through all of that. We're hoping to go completely electronic with all of these things. So as Rosa had mentioned, we have a new form for course substitutions and waivers. We want to get all of this information prior to the application. It's really important that students are getting accurate advisement. So when they get a course substitution approved in their sophomore year, but our office doesn't become informed until their senior year, they're not getting an accurate evaluation at that time. So if you hand these things into us, we can put these onto their degree audit, and they can actually follow a plan that's actually true to what their advisor told them. So hopefully that will cut down on the need for course substitutions to come at the time of graduation. But should they occur at that time, please do send in the electronic form. As Rosa mentioned, just sign it, scan it. We may come up with a better way as we move things along. Please be, patient with us as we move through this, find out, where our growing pains are, and try to find better ways of doing things. If you find better ways of doing things for us, please share that with us. We're very open to all ideas, recommendations. You're the ones who are on the ground working with the students. Tell us what's working, what's not working. Another really important thing, we're not going to require advisement clearance anymore, basically, for graduation. We have semester by semester advisement going on. Right now, we can't, with the online system, allow for advisement clearance just for graduation. So we're hoping that this advisement that you're doing term by term will cover what you need to for this purpose as well. So as long as that accurate advisement is happening, we shouldn't have to be worried about what's happening for graduation specifically. So we're holding on to that hope, and that's why we wanted to cover some of those considerations today to make sure that all of those things are covered. Honors are covered, graduation incentive is covered, all of these different, the recalculation, all of those really tiny things that they seem tiny, but they're really important in the large scheme of things. We want to make sure those are covered. Yes?
Thank you, Robin. I was wondering, do you need a minor process, for example, do you apply for graduation as minor second one? Second thing is, only place I can graduating is for consensus is my graduation application.
Okay.
And feedback on the program as graduates that are completing their application.
Thank you. So there's a couple things. In terms of the minors, what we're hoping to do is once we receive an application from a student, we're going to send communication to them, letting them know that we've received their application. We wanted to also send them communications letting them know this is what you look like right now in our system. These are the programs we have listed for you. So if there are, if there is a major, or second major, or a minor, we're going to send that information to them. If their records differ from ours, that's when they'll tell us, and they can send in the form to us. That's what our hope is. Unless they tell us they have a minor, there's no way for us to know that. So we're encouraging, again, early submission of forms, like the change of major minus status form. They can, of course, hand that in when they submit an application for graduation, but we want that earlier. So that one thing I do want to mention, just quickly, interjecting in myself, is when we move to the student planner system, all of our degree audits are going to be completely panned out. So this includes graduate and minors and second majors and concentrations. All of these things are going to be very well worked out. So if a student has a minor, they should be able to follow along with their degree audit. So I hope that answers the first part of your question. Remind me again, what was the second part?
The second part was, I use the graduation.
Yes, okay. Right. So, I mean, we can always run reports for you and let you know who has applied for graduation. That's something that we do pretty regularly for a lot of different people. They'll just let us know. We had tossed around a bunch of ideas. Well, do we send out to the advisors and tell them who applied for graduation, and then they give us clearance for graduation? It seemed very cumbersome to do things that way. So we came back to just the idea of term-by-term advisement being the way to go. But we're always happy to provide you with reports if necessary. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, sure. Sorry, Gail. Hi. Yeah. Yes, that's what we want to do. We want to get this early. So if you're working with a sophomore and you get that course substitution approved, please send that to us. We set up an email address just for this purpose, so we'll have somebody just churning out course substitutions, waivers. There is a function through Degree Audit where we can put these in. So it will show that a course was substituted for another course or that a course was waived so that it can account for the credits elsewhere. We just need to know. Once we have that information, we'll plug it in, and then they can follow the Degree Audit actually the right way. Yes, so we have the new form that Rosa had shown, and that will be sent electronically to that email address, and we'll just process it from there. And we'll inform the student, let them know that it's been processed. So I just wanted to let everybody see a sneak peek of what our application is going to look like. Again, we're still working through this, so we're going to have some modifications to this, some customization that will occur. But just so you have an idea of what this portal will look like and what the student view will be like. So, this was working a second ago. My pointer's working on a short-term basis. Okay, not working on the screen, sorry. Well, as you can see where I circled in red, that's where they'll actually click on the application to get in there. We're going to have some text there that basically is a disclaimer to students. So we had something on our application before saying, I understand, these are the terms, particularly when students handed in late applications. We had a statement saying, I understand, I may not be able to participate in the ceremony, graduation ceremony, or honors convocation ceremony. I might not get an evaluation prior to registration, all of these different things. We're going to have something very similar to that, a little bit shorter in length, basically saying, I understand, terms of graduation, I understand all policies regarding that. We're going to have a more robust commencement page on our website showing, these are all of these different policies, things you have to take into consideration. It will be cleaner, like I said, a little bit more information for them, easier to understand. So we're revamping a lot of things as we do this application. We'll have a link to that page so students can refer back to it, the kind of terms and things like that, terms of use, I guess. And then once they click into the application and submit the application, they're agreeing to that. So that's what this statement will say here. By submitting this application, I agree to yada yada. So this is nice and clean. So this is the home screen also for Student Planner. Like I said, I'll get back into that as well, but this is going to be the new student view. They'll see their financials through here, grades, transcripts, all this information will be in one nice clean place. So they'll actually go in. Pat, this will be where they see all of their programs. So if there's multiple programs listed, they'll be able to review that information there as well. They'll click into apply, and it'll bring them into application. I blocked out some student information. I had to use a student account, so that's what those blocks are. It's not going to look that way for students. But they'll be able to just basically review this information, edit things as necessary. Some very basic questions. It's a lot shorter of an application than it has been in the past. We're just looking for some demographic information, more or less. Information about, diplomas. Are you coming to the ceremony? We're going to have a link as well to Jostin's site, so they can order their cap and gowns straight through there. So it's no more, jumping around, all these different things, much more condensed. Just the other half of the application as well. And this says $25. I just wanted to mention the application fee is remaining $100. Now on to Student Planner. Have a lot of people heard of Student Planner? Anybody heard that word, those words coming around? Yeah, one person who's working on it, yes. Anybody else? Okay, well, Student Planner is a really exciting project, and there's a whole group of people diligently working on this for many months already and many more to come. Like I said, there's a lot of back-end work going into this project. Inclusive of that is all of the degree audits being revamped. Every last degree audit is being looked at and being changed right now because I won't get into the nitty-gritty details of it, but there's a lot of things we have to fix because it's not compatible with the new system. So we're working through all of that just so we, again, make this work for all of our students, including the graduate students. So once we implement this, graduate students will be able to use the degree audit system as well. Right now, we're only using guide sheets for them, so it's going to take a lot of the guesswork out of their reviews. So I'm personally looking forward to that part of it. Another really exciting feature of this is that it links to Colleague and our university catalogs. So there's information in there about courses that just pulls directly from the catalog. So I'll show you in just a moment, but there's course descriptions. So as long as we keep that information current and accurate in the catalog, the students will see exactly what's there. So we're also cleaning all of that information up too, because there were some things that students didn't necessarily need to see in the catalog. Just some inside, talk. Basically, course was revamped in 1996. Students don't need to know that. So we're cleaning a lot of that text up right now too. They'll still have the same functions as K-Ys, so they'll still be able to get their grades and see the restrictions and things like that, order transcripts. Similarly, advisors will be able to put their grades in, place restrictions, view their rosters, things of that nature, but there's a lot more features too. One of the things that they can do is plan schedules. So again, I'm going to show you some of these features too, but there's a whole grid, they can plan things out, they can move things around, they can get that plan approved by their advisor, so they can send it to the advisor, say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, the advisor can make modifications to that, they can approve it. If they approve it, they can just click one button and say register for all, if all of those classes are open, registration's open obviously, so a lot simpler of a process in that regard. They can also archive plans. So you can go back and see, okay, well, I made a plan for 19 spring. I made that currently. I can look and see what I did previously. I can look at plans I've made for prior semesters as well. So, I went off course. What was I planning to do? Or I stopped out, something like that. So, again, a lot of features. One of the biggest features that we're looking forward to is students being able to develop a 4-year plan. So, freshman comes here straight out of high school. They're looking to just get out in 4 years, which is what we want for them as well. They can now do that. They can do that based on what's offered each term. So we're going to be able to tell them these classes are only offered in the fall semester. Using that information, they'll be able to plan a schedule knowing, okay, I can only take this class in the fall, it's a prerequisite for this other course, and develop a plan accordingly. And again, everything's going to be there for them, everything's going to be there for the advisor. As long as the student's listed as their advisee, it'll be there for them. They can actually search other students too. It takes a little bit longer for them to find other students, but we're opening that up to other advisors too. Without further ado, well, actually, I have one more. They can monitor their academic progress. It's a more aesthetically pleasing degree audit. It is the same thing as degree audit, but there's a couple more features, and it just looks nicer. There's some more color coordination in terms of like a progress bar, things like that. Again, I'll show you in a moment. And advisors and students can communicate through this as well. So there is a feature that just says, request a review. So an email will be shot out to that advisor letting them know that the student needs a review of their plan or their record. There's also an email function. So the students can just click on their advisor's name and shoot an email out to them. They can also keep collaborative notes on their advisement sessions. So they can say, great meeting you today, this is what we went over. As we discussed, I'm going to take this class. This one's not offered, you approved a substitution, things like that. So it's all in one place. You can look back. So if you have a lot of advisees, this might be helpful for you to just kind of keep track of things. Also, you can lock classes for students. So it's a little bit different than putting a restriction on a course. You may not want to put a restriction on a course for all students. You may just want to keep a student from taking something out of sequence. So you can just lock it for that particular student for that particular term, so that they just don't skip something and move on to the next course. You just make sure that they stay on track with what they need to do. So somebody might be telling you they really want to take this class and you're really advising them against it. You can ensure that they don't do that just by putting a lock on something. So really interesting, neat features that most of us don't even think about and they're offering. So again, this is the student planning homepage. Students will click in here, move on to the next screen. The first thing is to view their progress. And this will bring them to the new degree audit. So as you can see at the top, since my clicker's not working, can't show you with the little laser, sorry. But you'll see there's in progress buttons, bars rather, sorry. And it'll show the total of number of credits that they need for their degree. It'll show them the institutional credits that they need. So that last one there will be, you can see it, it's of 32. This student exceeded the 32 credits needed for the residency requirement. So they're beyond what they actually do need. A lot of people like to see their progress, and I've learned this in a computer science course, Dr. Moriarty taught, that it is something that helps people move progress along by seeing it there. So this is something we really think students are going to react to. And again, at the top, it shows their overall progress toward the degree too. So in numbers and in looks, it will help them move along. Then we move down to the actual requirements of the degree. You'll see again in this kind of stop-go fashion, red and green, where students are in their progress. So if something is completed, go ahead, keep moving, you're good. The screen will collapse in areas that are completed. You can show the details if you want to. It's usually not necessary to do so because it's been completed. If you are looking to maybe grant a course substitution for something, so pluck a class from one area to another, you may want to show the details for everything. Again, you can absolutely do that. But I'm just going to quickly kind of go through some other areas of it. I figured show you the whole degree audit, why not? Here, one thing that you can do, you can see that class there, FA 1000, has an underline on it. If you click into that, you can actually see the description of the course. So as I was saying before, this actually pulls from the catalog itself, from colleague itself. So it shows the student exactly what the class is, all the information they could possibly need. You can just close that out and go back to the other area. So you go back, okay, well, if I have options for courses, is that the one that I want to take for my humanities, or is there something that better suits me? So you can kind of go back and forth, plan, figure out what works for them. Again, you'll see the not started areas, you'll see the completed areas, just more of the same. So these are areas that have a lot of options of classes. This is listing all of the available options to them. Degree Audit does that now, but again, this is just a little bit more plentiful in information, and they can click into the classes, have those hyperlinks there. It's great. Something else here, it shows a little bit more of those institutional requirements that we mentioned earlier about the 50% of the major courses, 50% of the minor courses, 50% of the electives, those things that we had mentioned earlier. It's kind of planning that out for them too. It's just pointing out again, okay, don't forget, you have to do these things. So I circled a couple things here because a lot of programs have this where they have options within their major electives. So they're kind of categorized, let's say concentrations, but for lack of a better term, concentrations within them. Psychology has this, criminal justice has this. So it can break it down where a student has to complete one of the concentrations or 2 classes from each of the concentrations. It really has a lot more information here. So it doesn't just list, again, the classes, it'll show one by one if they started them or not started each of them. So just more of the same there. And we have the free electives. So we're working on some things with the free electives area. One of the things that I was mentioning earlier that I didn't want to get too much into is we're trying to figure out how to make this work with our new system. This may be changing because what we're currently using will not work moving forward. So we're trying to find a way for the variable credits to still comprehend with the new system, or compute rather with the new system. So there is a possibility that this will have to be manually computed to figure out what the students need. So again, still in progress, still trying to work that out. We're working with other institutions to figure out how they've solved this problem, to make the other areas kind of talk with this area, to know what's left. Because remember that they have to take the PE or the health requirement, the lab, non-lab science classes. That helps to determine how many free electives a student needs. Like I said, when we remove this custom match from other areas of the degree audit, that function may go away. But we are working very hard to find solutions to that so that we can keep working and not lose that functionality, because we think it's really important. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll get that worked out and figured out. Again, we still do have that other courses area. So this is something that currently and moving forward you should be paying a lot of attention to. If students have classes in the other area, this means they are not counting toward their degree requirements. So this might be somewhere where you want to pull a class from and substitute another class, or use this to fulfill, the credits that were used for a waived course. Again, if a course is down there, our office will not use this for degree requirements. You may have approved it, but we need to know about this. This is where developmental classes are going to go. This is where failed courses are going to go. If a student gets a D in a major course, this is where that's going to drop down to. So please do be mindful, check this, encourage students to look over this area, and just make sure there's nothing that they believe is being used toward the degree requirements falling down here. We do see this quite often. I thought it was counting toward my degree. It's not actually. So the other function of this is planning out and registering for classes, of course. So this is that grid that I was talking about. This is where they can kind of plug in all of the classes, a lot of different ways to get there. So I circled up in the top right corner there. You can see they can actually just search. I literally just put in ENG, and I got a bunch of results there. So ENG, all of the developmentals came up. All of the literature classes came up. On the left-hand side, there's a bunch of filters. I'll show you that in a moment, too. A lot of different ways to get at these things. There's another way to get in the menu, too. I'll show you in a moment. So you can search directly on the page, or you can go directly to the catalog itself. So if I don't know what class I want to take, I can just go straight to the catalog and just start looking. Okay, well, I want to take a sign language course. Okay, just click straight into there. That'll bring me to all the American Sign Language classes. Again, if there's one, I see people yeah, cheering back there. So if I like one of those classes, I can add it to my course plan. If I want to add it to my course plan, this pop-up will come up. I choose the term that I want to add it for, and it, boom, goes to my course plan. I did this I did it 2 times for one term, so that you can see when an error occurs, it will tell me that I did this twice. So it's a very smart system. It knows it's going to inform you this was added, it was added again. So you obviously don't want to keep adding the same class over and over to your course plan because that would be misleading for a student. So just some neat functionality again. As I was mentioning before, you can do a lot of filtering with this. Right now we do have some filter functions with CaneWise. But it's, again, a little bit more, so you can do the term, you can do the subject, professor, time, undergraduate, graduate, level, all of these different things, campus, a lot of different options here again. So if you go to the actual schedule, you start plotting out classes, and it'll show you what the student's currently registered for, a course that they want to take or that they're already in. It'll show you if the class is full, the capacity, all of that information, who the professor is, and they just add it in. So I actually circled again here, hyperlinks again for the classes. This shows you for that particular class itself on the section level. So this shows you who the professor is, when the class is being offered, a description of the course. But again, this is at the section level, so this is a little bit more than just the catalog description that I had shown you before. And this is the student's timeline. So this is part of that 4-year plan. So the student only went 2 terms out in planning, but if there was a 4-year plan, we would see it here. And in terms of advisement, the student's advisor is listed there. They would just click on the name, and that would send that advisor an email. As we talked about before, if they wanted to request a review of their plan or anything that they've done, they can just click that button, and notification would go to the advisor. Rosa requested a review of her record. Boom, I got a little notification, I'll go ahead and do that, and then notification would go to Rosa that they've done that, and she would be able to see any notes that they've made. So all your classes were good except for this one. Make that change, and then you can register. Petitions and waivers, they can be placed in this area as well, so the student will be able to see what classes they've actually been approved for, and for previous terms as well. And we'll just open the floor up to any questions. Yeah, yes, Wanda. Can you be a little bit louder? I'm not sure if everyone could hear that. Wanda was asking if this was effective for graduate students as well. So we will be using the online graduation application for undergraduate and graduate students. Again, we're hopeful for January applications, so we're hoping to get all the kinks worked out. Hopefully in the next month, I'm hoping. I'm looking at Orly because we're working with student accounting right now as part of the things that we need to just kind of work out so we can receive payment on the applications. Once that's all figured out, again, we will send communications out from our office letting everyone know that it's up, it's running. Trust me, we're very excited about this. So we're ready to release it as soon as it's ready to go. We're doing this for the January application cycle because it's a much smaller group. So we're hopeful that if there are any issues that we run into, we can handle them with this group instead of the May applicants, when it's probably almost doubled for us. So again, if you run into issues, let us know. But yes, graduate, however, will still be handling substitutions, transfer credit, things like that, the same way that we're handling them right now. We will see how that progresses, but right now we're going to handle it the same way. It's not broken, so we're going to keep it working. Orly is shaking her head no. So I'm not sure how we would be able to handle that in terms of financial aid. Right now, they would probably have to work it out with financial aid office to see maybe if they could get reimbursed. I'm sorry, say it again. So if anyone couldn't hear Orly, we will be directing students to make the payment online. If there are special circumstances, we can work on them on an individual basis and see what we can do. We have received a few applications for January already, so we're going to try to work those through the system ourselves, just to kind of work out some of those things and see what we can do. There's a few hands up. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They will have to pay for the application themselves. Again, if there are circumstances like that where the student is unable to make payment themselves, then yes, we will work with them. Chad? We don't have that functionality. So again, I'll bring this back to the committee that's been working on this and see if there's anything we can do to address that. So thanks for bringing that to our attention. That wasn't something that we had talked about, but I don't think there is. We've talked about instances where we've had to waive the fee for students. And again, we were going to handle those on a student basis because it's not so often that that happens. We do have students who do pay through financial aid, but we have a lot more who do not. I'd say it was a relatively small population that do pay through financial aid, so I think we can probably handle them on an individual basis. But again, I'll bring it back to committee. Thank you. Maria? I'm sorry. Yes, the advisor should be able to do that. Like I mentioned before, other advisors will be able to see the student if they search for them. It's going to take a long time for them to get to a student who is not part of their record. We were told that by the colleague people. They can search, but it could take a half an hour for them to get to a student who does not belong to them because it's searching through a whole database of people. But they will not have the same full functionality that an advisor assigned to a student does. So they won't be able to take the holds off, things like that. But if somebody wanders into your office versus, since my advisor is never there, things like that, you'll at least be able to look at their record, review their plans, things like that, help them register if necessary. Marcia had her, yes. Sure. Marcia said I showed the timeline for implementing student planning. So, like I said, we're working on a lot of back-end things now. We're hopeful that it will be in place for March 2019. So, we're looking that probably the January PDDs next year we'll be able to roll this out and give everyone a true training on this system. I saw a bunch of hands back there. Yes. So that'll all be done through Student Planner as well. Petitions will be done through Student Planner as well. So I showed you the student view today. I didn't want to get too much into the nitty-gritty, but there is an advisor view, obviously, as well, and you'll be using that system to put all the petitions into. You can still use Colleague, but we're hoping to just move over to Student Planner entirely for everything. Yes, hi. So I wasn't actually the one driving the bus on the repeat policy, but our registrar was, so he likely has all of that because he did a very thorough, he did a lot of research on it when he was putting the policy forward. So it likely is in all of the documents that he sent forward. So I can check up on that and let you know. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, like I said, but I think he did do a lot of that because when that came forward, when it went to the Senate, there was a lot of consideration given to, it went forward first as the last grade would count. And a lot of the faculty were in favor of it being the best grade, just because they wanted to give the student that benefit. So I know those types of things were looked at, and I'm sure in terms of how it's affecting graduation as well. Holly, do you know if that's on the Senate website? Okay. Sorry to put you on the spot. I see a fellow senator here. Yes. Absolutely, yeah. So again. She's talking about if they're reviewing for a graduate program. Yes, again, you're not losing any of the functionality. It's going to show you there. It's always going to show with the R that it's a repeat and then what the grade is. Okay? Holly? Mm-hmm. They have to still review it and approve the student for registration every semester. So you can plan it out, and then you can just say, yeah, I'd like your plan for this semester, good to go, restriction taken off, advisor restriction taken off. Right. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Everything's archived. So like I said, you can see previous semesters, you can see future semesters. As long as you've made a plan, everything will be archived there for the student and for the advisor as well. Worley? That's a great question. The question is, are students aware that they're not registering for courses as they're building their plans? That's probably going to take some advisement and letting them know that this is not going toward their schedule. The thing that's really, I guess, most explanatory to them is they're going to be doing this prior to registration being open for a lot of terms, so they're not capable of registering at that time. So I think that's really kind of what we are asking all of you to do, letting them know this is just a plan. Once the plan is approved, like I said, there is a button that just says register now, and it'll allow them to register for anything that's been approved on the plan, but we do have to make it clear. Once we roll out this program, we're going to be, communicating a lot of information out to faculty and to students about this. We're hoping that, new students, obviously they don't know anything else, so they'll learn the system as it's coming out. Students who are currently here and transitioning, it'll take a little bit more work with them just to get them used to the system, but I don't think it will be too hard to kind of communicate that information. I saw some hands in the back. Yes. Okay. Right. So the questions about waiving classes and the great point of second degree students came up, and how their general education classes are waived. So in the terms of second degree students, they don't need to make up those general education credits. Second degree students are required to take their major courses and possibly some additional required courses as well, because they may be prerequisites for the major courses. They don't have to make the coursework, those GE credits up somewhere else. We have to waive those just because there's no way for us to say otherwise that they don't need those classes. For other students, though, if you waive a class, yes, they will need to make that up elsewhere. Right now, we're not really using that functionality in degree audit to waive the classes, because we're not finding out till graduation that they waived the course. Our hope is that when we get those waivers, we'll put them in. You'll tell us where you're hoping they'll take another class. So if you tell us, I'm going to waive an additional required course, but they have to make up in major electives. So we'll be able to say that, there's an additional 3 credits required in that area. Okay. Okay. If you happen to remember the names, I'll be glad to look into the records. That would help us in figuring things out. Like I said, we're really working very hard on figuring all of this degree audit stuff out. It's a lot of technical jargon and that we're really trying to sort through and figure out how we can put things in, like I said, not just with the waivers and substitutions. We know a lot of that stuff already, but in reprogramming these. And looking at the second degree students is going to be one of those, because we're trying to make second degree student evaluations, degree audits specifically for them. So right now we're just repurposing the evaluations for first degree students for the purpose of second degree. So it's not working the way we need it to work perfectly right now. So that's why you're seeing that kink. But we can take a look and see kind of what's happening and how we can get back around that. Yes. Yes. So we're not using degree audit at the graduate level right now. We've tried to turn off the function so students can't even look at it, because for all these years we've told advisors not to use it, and that's pretty much been respected across the board. But new advisors come along, people don't know, things like that. So recently, we figured out how to turn it off so students can't even see it. So if you have a graduate student who gets in there, please let me know, because I need to know that that program was not turned off properly. Until we figure all of this out, we don't want anybody reviewing an incorrect evaluation. Before that, we were getting calls, a couple times a week, my evaluation's wrong, they told me this class transferred in, it's not there, or they were following a different catalog year, things like that. So it was just not accurate, and people were starting to panic because they handed in an application for graduation, and we were telling them they were missing a class, but they had been following something else. So it was a lot of that mismatch again. But moving forward, we're hoping to get around it. Anybody else? Yes. Good question. We're going to do a lot in our freshman seminar and T2K classes. It's going to be very vital there for the students, and elsewhere, that obviously we'll get new students, yes, but current students, we're going to do some focus groups with students as well to show them, what we have, and probably take some ideas from them to figure out how to get the word out to students. We're going to do some tutorials as well. We're going to put those all over the place, a lot of video tutorials about, the primary functions of them. We're going to have them on the registrar site. We're going to put them on the homepage. We're going to get them basically wherever we can, obviously our social media, things like that. But hopefully in these focus groups, we can get a little bit better idea of where the students are looking for information and get it out to them there as well. And if anybody has suggestions, we're very open to suggestions as we move through this process. This implementation is very complicated in a lot of different ways, and we're always looking for ways to uncomplicate the process and make it easier for everyone. We really want this to benefit students, faculty, staff, everyone alike. And if you have ideas that will get us there, happy to hear them. Anyone else? I'm not missing anyone, am I? All right. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, we do have a generic email address that you can reach us at, and you have all of our contact information as well. Thank you.
Thank you.